Hi gang. We're going to start out with our first program in COP 1000, and we've got three different phases that we're going to go through for this program. The first phase will involve developing a little algorithm, and from that algorithm we'll convert it into a flowchart, and from the flowchart we will actually create Python programming code to run that program. Now, in some instances, we will develop what's called an IPO chart along the way as well. It involves input, processing, and output. For this first program, we don't have any inputs. We're just providing output. There's no processing that takes place, no calculations. And for this, let's look. I've got a little algorithm written, and this algorithm says this program will display "Welcome to COP 1000" on a computer screen. Now, that's about as basic as we can get, but it's also giving us some insight into what's taking place, what it's doing, where it's happening, that it is output, and what's being output. Now we're taking an idea and putting it to paper, if you will, in our algorithm. And by putting it to paper, we can get a better understanding of our logic, the step-by-step progression of what's taking place. Now our logic may or may not work, but the flowchart program, Raptor, it does help us get everything laid out. And so we're going to take this program will display "Welcome to COP 1000" on a computer screen, and we're going to convert that into a flowchart. So this "Welcome to COP 1000", we call that a string literal constant. It's going to be literally displayed as we see it. It's constant, meaning it doesn't change, and it's a string because it's a string of characters. Now here's Raptor. I've got a previous video that I posted talking about downloading Raptor. So here's our flowcharting program. And in our flowcharting program, we have a start and an end to the flowchart. So our flowchart can involve these different symbols: an assignment symbol, a call symbol, input, output, selection, and a loop. The program we have involves only output, display. So I click output, and then I come over and I drop it in between start and end. I can bring multiple items over. I can bring an input over if I wanted to. For this, we're not going to use it, so I can delete it. So start, output, end. And the output, let's open it up, double click it, and it tells us, here's examples of output. We can output exact text. That's that string literal constant we're going to use. I can output a variable and call it by name, or a combination of strings and variables. Now, the program we're using is Raptor. We're going to convert it into Python, and this plus symbol here we see here, we call that concatenating, and that's bringing together two strings. We'll deal with that a little bit more in our discussion in Python a little later in this video. So let's just type in "Welcome to COP 1000." Now close the quotation marks. I say I'm done, and now we see it. We see the word put. Put is one of three words that we'll see commonly used in Raptor. There's get, set, and put. Get means we're acquiring something, obtaining it. That's input. Set means we're placing something somewhere or setting a value. That's an assignment. Input means we're outputting or placing something somewhere, so that's an output. That's our put word that we see here. So I'll have a breakdown of converting algorithm to Raptor to Python. And you'll find that in the course as well. So I've got the algorithm converted to a flowchart. Let's go ahead and run the flowchart. And I've run it a few times. One of the things that you'll find in programming is most things don't work out the way they want them, or that we want them to, the first time. We have to go back, tweak something, change something, and you'll see that in my videos. Wow, this guy's run this video run this program a few times because I've gone through this video and realized, let me change how I'm doing things. That happens in our programming. It may not work the way we want it to initially. We can always take a step back, go back, revise it, and see how it works now. That's why we call this the programming life cycle. It's a cycle, it's cyclical, meaning we're going back and redoing things all the time. Alright, so our flowchart works. Let's take this flowchart and write it in Python code now. Now, in our Python video, I discussed two different versions of Python. So you see two interfaces here. So we've got this IDLE, this shell, they call it, for Python, and we also have this interface with a black background. That's a command prompt interface. Command prompt runs the line of code you provide it, and then it stops. There's not a whole lot of feedback or interaction, very little if any. So in that, and we see that it's version 3.6. I see over here this version is 2.7.4, and this one up here is 3.6. So I've got two different versions of the IDLE, and I've got one version running of the command prompt. So let's type in here print. So I'm invoking the print function. See, I've already got it written in there. So I'm invoking the print function, and I've got a set of parentheses. Now I'm passing some value to this print function. Somebody's already created the print function, and we can use it all we want. We just need to know, one, what's the name so that I can call it or invoke it? What does it require from me? And what is it doing for me or giving me? So it requires me to give it a string of characters. What is it doing? It's taking those characters, or that string, and displaying them, outputting them on the screen. So it'll be outputting in this command prompt. So if I hit enter, the print function took what was in the parentheses and it sent it to the output screen. Welcome to COP1000. That string literal constant, that string of characters that literally is displayed as we see it, constant, it doesn't change. We see it exactly as it was typed in the quotation marks. Command prompt, or the console app, it's sitting there waiting for something else. Okay. I have to use these parentheses in the 3.6 or later versions, or I should say the 3.0 or later versions of Python. If you have a version lower than 3, for example, this 2.7.4, the programming is more implicit in the older version, less strict. So in this 2.7.4, if I just type in print, welcome to COP1000, end quotes, and I hit enter, it ran. Now if I come over here to the console, or instead of the console, let's come over here and use the other IDLE. So I've got them side by side. Come to this one and I say print. Welcome to COP 1000. It throws me an error. Syntax, missing parentheses in call to print. It worked here in the 2.7.4, but it did not work here in the 3.6. Now it's telling me I have, and you see the words here, syntax error. Syntax is the grammar in programming. Remember I said we will have to redo things over and over again so we get used to making mistakes. We know we're not perfect, and in programming we expect things to not work out the way we plan them to. We make a plan, but we know things don't always work as planned. So we may have little syntax errors, grammatical errors if you compare it to English. We may have logic errors as well. Okay, so if I took and I ran this with the parentheses, it runs fine. Now, if I look at 2.7.4, is it forward compatible? Let's see. If I put parentheses around it, will it run? Yes, it will. So the older version's forward compatible. It was more forgiving in that it took implicit, but it won't do that anymore. So it's more strict, more stringent, if you will. Okay, so our program, we took it from the algorithm to a flowchart to the actual Python coding. In this coding, we didn't have any inputs from the user. We'll deal with that in the next phase. But for now, we took our logic that was just an idea. We converted it into an algorithm. It's words to paper. From there, we could have created an IPO chart. We just got our flowchart working. Our flowchart worked. It did what we wanted it to do. I can go put comments in here. Let's see. In my code itself, I would go save my file, give it a name, and it would save, and I can actually put comments in my code. We'll deal with that in the next program. Okay? But for now, we just dealt with the basic syntax, outputting something, and the logic that we're dealing with. So I'll see you in the next video.